Welcome, guys, to the 28th day. Day 28th, a day of fervor to atone for souls suffering for negligence in spiritual duties. Such are our weakness and extreme misery that they appear even in our best actions. Yet these will be examined with strict scrutiny. The Lord declares him accursed who does his work negligently. What a dreadful thing to appear before him with imperfect works. Prayer said without devotion, the divine office recited with distraction, meditations made without fruit. Let us pray today for those who are suffering for such offenses. In suffering, there is something sadder than suffering itself, abandonment. To suffer and find someone to sympathize, to be interested, to compassionate, this is not the saddest suffering. But to suffer and realize that no one shares our suffering by a sentiment, a thought, or a tear. To suffer and find no consolation. This is torture multiplied by torture. This was that Jew from Job, seated in his misery, and from Jeremiah's, weeping over the ruins of Jerusalem, their most mournful lamentation. I sought a consoler, and I found none. And this it is that gives the sorrows of purgatory a sovereign interest. The sorrows of the souls, they are the most forsaken of all sorrows. They can truly say in the terrible reality of their abandonment, they have heard the voice of my groaning, and among them there is no one to console me. Have you reflected on this phenomenon? So desolating for our dear deceased brethren, so humiliating for us, forgetfulness of the dead. For myself, I confess it often inspires me with the gravest and most sorrowful thoughts. When I reflect on the place which the dead hold in the memory of the living, I can but say, is it possible we shall so soon be forgotten? Alas, we vainly seek to deceive ourselves on this point. Forgetfulness is the sad inheritance which our life bequeaths to our death. When the face of man disappears from our sight, his memory passes swiftly from our mind, so swiftly that we forget even those we loved the most. This forgetfulness we cannot believe when the last farewell has been said, and our soul, overwhelmed with sorrow, promises itself a consolation in immortal remembrance. But, alas, for this poor heart of ours, all things pass from it, all, even to the sentiments which form its individual life. While the stroke of death still rings in our ears, and our heart bleeds from the recent wounds it inflicted, we remember. But time marches on, a few steps. The remembrance and the sorrow begin to grow faint. The train of life brings other relations and new affections. Time still marches on, and we dream of a new existence where the dead will be no more needed. A step farther, and already we are quite accustomed to do without them. Sometimes the grass has not grown over our grave, and already new friendships take root in the hearts that so bitterly regretted us, effacing little by little all memories of us until they finally disappear forever. Around your last sigh, perhaps there will be the sound of regrets and praises, but as the strokes of the bell which tolls your requiem grow fainter and fainter in the distance until lost in silence, so your life will soon be heard of no more. While our bodies, crumbling to dust, are confounded with 1,000 other things already pulverized, our memory, little by little, is confounded with the forgotten generations. Then complete silence, and all of the sounds that come borne on the wings of heaven, there will not be one to tell that we ever existed. Silence everywhere. Even in the little corner of the world where we passed our lives, the same silence reigns. Even there, your name will no longer fall upon the ear. Never more will it excite the interest of your survivors or enter into their conversations. Oh, how true are the words of the imitation. Trust not in thy friends and kinsfolk, nor put off the welfare of thy soul to hereafter, for men will soon forget thee than thou imaginest. It is better now to provide in time and send some good before thee, than to trust to others helping thee after thy death. If thou art not now careful for thyself, who will be careful for thee hereafter? I know there are some exceptions to the universality of this forgetfulness. We meet hearts carrying an ever bleeding wound and remembrance, a regret that cannot die, who make the sorrow itself a protection for the cherished memory. The truth forces us to say that these are the exceptions, but there is one heart on earth which never forgets, which ever remembers and prays without ceasing, a heart ready every hour to come to the aid of the abandoned dead. It is the heart of the Catholic Church. She is the mother of the children who combat on earth. mother also of her children who suffer in purgatory, and the lamentations of the one and the other ever find an echo in her compassionate heart. During this month, especially, she says to her desolate ones in purgatory, "Be consoled, my children, be consoled. If your friends no longer pray for you, if you are forgotten by all, I will always pray for you. I will not forget you. I am your mother, and I will call your brothers and sisters into my house, that they may obtain by their prayers and merits solace for you in your suffering, and may hasten the day of your deliverance." Thus, the Holy Church consoles her afflicted children. Father Felix S.J. We read in the life of St. Elizabeth of Portugal that after the death of her daughter Constance, she learned the pitiful state of the deceased in purgatory. The young princess had been married but a short time previous to the King of Castile, when she was snatched away by sudden death from the affection of her family and her subjects. Elizabeth had just received these tidings and set out with the king, her husband, for the city of Santarem, when a hermit, coming forth from his solitude, ran after the royal cortege, crying that he wished to speak to the queen. As soon as he came into her presence, he related that more than once, while he was praying in his hermitage, the princess had appeared to him, urgently entreating him to make known to her mother that she was languishing in the depths of purgatory, that she was condemned to long and terrible suffering, but that she would be delivered if for the space of a year the holy sacrifice of the Mass was celebrated for her every day. Elizabeth turned to the king and asked what he thought of this communication. "I believe," he replied, "that it is wise to do what has been pointed out to you in so extraordinary a manner. After all, to have masses celebrated for our dear child is nothing more than a duty." A holy priest, Ferdinand Mendes, was appointed to say the masses. At the end of the year, Constance appeared to St. Elizabeth clad in a brilliant white robe. "Today, my dear mother," said she, "I am delivered from the pains of purgatory, and am about to enter heaven." Filled with consolation and joy, the saint went to the church to return thanks to God. There she found the priest Mendes, who assured her that on the previous day he had finished the celebration of the 365 masses with which he had been charged. The queen then understood that God had kept the promise which he had made to the pious hermit, and she testified her gratitude by distributing abundant alms to the poor. And this is the end of day 28. Thank you guys for listening, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.